You know that moment when you realize your marriage isn't just broken. It's been a joke for months, and you were the only one not laughing? Mine happened at a backyard block party with 30 neighbors watching. My wife introduced me as someone she knows. Not her husband, not her partner, someone she knows. Like I was the guy who delivers her Amazon packages. I was standing there holding a plate of burgers, watching her laugh with a group of neighbors and their friends, when she gestured toward me casually and said those exact words. The group looked confused. One of them even asked if we were related. She just smiled and changed the subject. I stood there for about 5 seconds, processing what just happened. Part of me wanted to believe it was a mistake, some weird brain fog moment. But I knew better. This wasn't an accident. This was intentional. For months, she'd been acting like I was optional, coming home late without explanation, going out every weekend with friends I'd never met, questioning every decision I made like I was some incompetent roommate instead of her husband. The intimacy disappeared. The conversations became transactional. She treated our marriage like a temporary living arrangement she was tolerating until something better came along. And now, in front of half the neighborhood, she reduced me to someone she knows. I could have stayed quiet, could have swallowed the humiliation and dealt with it privately later. That's probably what she expected. But I was done being the guy who takes disrespect quietly. I walked over, still holding that plate, and smiled. Not a fake smile, not an angry one, just calm and controlled. Actually, I said loud enough for the group to hear, I'm the husband, and I'm selling the house. The backyard went completely silent. You could hear someone's Spotify playlist still going in the background, but nobody was talking anymore. Everyone just stared. She laughed, nervous, forced, trying to play it off like I was joking. What are you talking about? I'm selling the house, I repeated, looking directly at her. Already talked to a real estate agent. Should be listed by next week. Her face went pale. One of the neighbors, older guy who lives 2 doors down, looked between us like he was watching a car accident in slow motion. You can't just sell the house, she said, her voice tight. Actually, I can. It's in both our names, but we both know how this works. I've already consulted with an attorney about asset division. You'll get your share, don't worry. She tried to laugh again, looking around at the group for support, but nobody was buying it anymore. They all knew exactly what they just witnessed. She disrespected me publicly, and I called her bluff immediately. This is ridiculous, she said, trying to recover. You're being dramatic. Dramatic would have been making a scene when you introduced me as someone you know. This is just me being clear about where we stand. I set the plate down on the nearest table and walked back toward the house. I didn't storm off, didn't slam anything, just walked away with my head up, leaving her standing there trying to explain to a group of confused neighbors why her husband just announced he's selling their house. I spent the rest of that evening in the garage, going through boxes of old paperwork and pulling out everything related to the house. Mortgage documents, property tax records, home improvement receipts. I wasn't bluffing about any of this. She came into the garage around 10, after everyone had left. What the hell was that? She said, arms crossed. That was me being honest. You humiliated me. I looked up from the box I was sorting through. I humiliated you? You introduced me as someone you know. To our neighbors. People I've lived next to for 3 years. It was a mistake. No, it wasn't. You've been treating me like I'm temporary for months now. Tonight you just said it out loud. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She knew I was right. So what? You're just going to blow up our entire life over one comment. One comment. I stood up, brushing dust off my hands. You've been checked out of this marriage since winter. Late nights out, no explanations. Treating me like I'm in your way. You think I didn't notice? She didn't respond. Just stood there looking at me like she was trying to figure out if I was serious. I'm selling the house. I said again, calmer this time. You can fight me on it, or we can handle this like adults. Either way, I'm done pretending this marriage is something it's not. She left the garage without another word. I heard the bedroom door close upstairs. I went back to sorting through documents. By midnight, I had everything organized. I'd already emailed the real estate agent earlier that week, just to get an idea of what the house was worth. Turns out, property values in our area had gone up significantly. We'd make a decent profit even after the mortgage was paid off. The next morning, I woke up to find her sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her coffee. We need to talk, she said. Go ahead. I don't want to sell the house. Noted. I'm still selling it. You can't just make decisions like this without me. I poured myself coffee and leaned against the counter. You're right. Marriage is supposed to be a partnership, but you stopped treating it like one a long time ago. So now I'm making decisions that protect me. She looked down at her cup. For a second, I thought she might actually admit something. Apologize, maybe. But she didn't. I think you're overreacting, she said instead. I finished my coffee, rinsed the mug, and grabbed my keys. Where are you going? She asked. Work. And then I'm meeting with the real estate agent at lunch. Like I said, the house goes on the market next week. I left before she could respond. Drove to work with the windows down, feeling lighter than I had in months. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was just done. And for the first time in a long time, I was the one in control. The real estate agent confirmed what I already suspected. The house would sell fast. Location was prime, condition was good, and the market was hot. She suggested listing it $15,000 above what I initially thought, said we'd probably get multiple offers within the first week. I signed the paperwork that afternoon. Listing agreement, disclosure forms, everything. The agent said she'd have a photographer out by Thursday for professional shots. House goes live on Friday. When I got home that evening, my wife was waiting in the living room. She'd clearly been rehearsing whatever speech she was about to give. We need to have a real conversation, she started. About what? About you making a massive decision without actually discussing it with me first. I dropped my keys on the counter. We've been discussing it for months. You just weren't paying attention. That's not fair. You're right. Fair would have been you treating me like your husband instead of some guy who pays half the bills. But here we are. She stood up, frustrated. One comment at a block party doesn't mean our entire marriage is over. It's not one comment. It's months of you acting like I'm disposable. The late nights with friends I've never met. The way you flinch when I touch you. How you've turned our bedroom into a place where you sleep alone even when I'm right there. I've been stressed. Stressed about what? You haven't worked in over a year. I pay the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries. You spend your days doing whatever you want and your nights out with people you refuse to introduce me to. What exactly are you stressed about? She crossed her arms, defensive. So this is about money now? No, this is about respect. Money's just one example of how unbalanced everything became. I contribute in other ways. Name one. She went quiet, looked away, couldn't answer. That's what I thought, I said. You stopped contributing months ago. Emotionally, physically, practically. And last night you made it clear you don't even see me as your husband anymore. So yeah, I'm selling the house. Because staying here pretending we're fine is pointless. You're being cold. I'm being realistic. She tried a different approach. Softer voice, almost pleading. What if I said I want to fix this? That I made mistakes, but I want to try. I looked at her directly. Then I'd say you're only interested in fixing it because you're about to lose something. Not because you value the relationship. That's not true. Then tell me the truth. Where were you Tuesday night 2 weeks ago? Or last Friday? Or the 3 Saturdays before that? She hesitated. Out with friends. Which friends? Does it matter? Yeah, it does. Because if you're asking me to believe you want to fix this marriage, the least you can do is be honest about where you've been spending your time. She didn't answer, just stood there trying to figure out how to navigate the conversation without actually admitting anything. That's what I thought, I said again. You want me to trust you, but you won't even tell me basic information about your life. That's not a marriage. That's me being your backup plan. You're twisting everything. I'm stating facts. You've been distant. You've been secretive. And last night you made it public. So now I'm responding accordingly. She tried guilt next. What about everything we built together? 3 years in this house. All the memories. Memories don't pay the mortgage. And they don't make up for being treated like I'm optional. So that's it. You're just done? No counseling. No trying to work through this? I almost laughed. Counseling works when both people want to fix things. You don't want to fix anything. You just don't want to deal with the consequences of your choices. That's not fair. Life's not fair. But I'm not sticking around to be disrespected in my own house anymore. She sat back down, staring at the floor. For a moment, I thought maybe she'd actually admit what was really going on. But she didn't. She just sat there in silence. The house gets listed Friday, I said. You can cooperate, and we'll split everything cleanly. Or you can fight me and make this harder than it needs to be. Your choice. And if I refuse to sell, then we go to court. My attorney already explained how this works. It's marital property, and I have grounds to force the sale. You'll get your share of the profit either way. But if you fight me, It costs both of us more in legal fees and takes longer. Doesn't change the outcome. She looked up, realizing I wasn't bluffing about any of this. When did you talk to an attorney? 2 weeks ago, right around the time I realized this marriage was already over and you just hadn't said it out loud yet. So you've been planning this. I've been protecting myself. There's a difference. She stood up and walked toward the stairs, stopped halfway, and turned back. I didn't think you'd actually do this. That's because you thought I'd just keep taking whatever you handed me. I'm done doing that. She went upstairs. I heard the bedroom door close. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat on the back porch. My phone buzzed. Text from the real estate agent. Photographer scheduled for Thursday at 10. She'd already started drafting the listing description. I texted back confirming. Then I called my attorney and updated him on the conversation. He said to document everything. Keep records of her refusing to disclose where she'd been, her lack of financial contribution, all of it. Said it would matter if things got complicated during asset division. I spent the rest of that night going through bank statements and credit card bills. Flagged every charge from restaurants I'd never been to, every Uber ride I didn't know about, every unexplained expense. Built a timeline of the last 6 months. It was clear as day. She'd been living a separate life while I paid for everything. Thursday morning, she tried one more time. Can we at least talk about this before the photographer comes? There's nothing left to talk about. Please. I stopped packing up the clutter in the living room and looked at her. You want to talk? Fine. Tell me who you've been seeing. I'm not seeing anyone. Then tell me who you've been spending your time with. Names. Details. Prove me wrong. She couldn't. Wouldn't. Just stood there looking trapped. That's what I thought. I said for the third time. Photographer gets here in an hour. Make sure your stuff is out of sight. The house looked perfect when the photographer finished. Staged, clean, ready to sell. She stayed in the bedroom the entire time, door closed. By Friday afternoon, the listing was live. Professional photos, detailed description, price to move. The agent called at 6 to say we already had 3 showings scheduled for the weekend and 2 offers coming in sight unseen. My wife came downstairs that evening and saw me looking at the listing on my laptop. This is really happening, she said quietly. Yeah, it is. She sat down across from me, looking at the screen. Our house. The place we'd lived for 3 years. Listed for sale with a price that would close this chapter completely. I made mistakes, she said. You did. But I didn't think you'd actually leave. I closed the laptop and looked at her. That's the problem. You thought I'd just stay no matter what. But I won't. I'm worth more than being someone you know. Saturday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. This is Grant, from 3 houses down. We met at the block party last week. I remembered him. Quiet guy, kept to himself mostly. Worked from home, doing something with software consulting. Always nodded hello when we crossed paths, but never really talked much beyond that. Yeah, I remember. What's up? I saw your house went up for sale yesterday. Is the listing accurate? You're actually selling. Yeah, I am. Mind if I come by? I'd like to talk to you about something. 20 minutes later, he was standing in my living room. My wife had conveniently left for the morning, probably to avoid the reality of what was happening. Grant didn't waste time. I want to buy your house. I'll pay asking price plus $10,000. Cash offer, no inspection contingency. We can close in 3 weeks. I stared at him. That's a serious offer. I'm serious about it. I've been watching this street for 2 years. Your lot is the best positioned. Corner property, bigger backyard, better sun exposure. I was waiting for something to open up. Why not just go through the normal process? Make an offer through my agent. Because I want to close fast, and I don't want to deal with other buyers competing. This way we both win. You get above asking, I get the house I want, and we skip the headache of showings and negotiations. I sat down, processing this. You understand this is going through a divorce, right? It's not just me selling. My wife owns half. I figured. From what I saw last week, I'm guessing that's why you're selling in the first place. And that doesn't concern you? He shook his head. Your personal situation is your business. I just care about the property. But I'll be honest with you. What happened at the block party impressed me. Impressed you. Most guys would have stood there and taken that disrespect quietly. Would have dealt with it privately later, probably let it slide completely. You didn't. You called it out right then and there. That takes guts. I didn't know what to say to that. Wasn't expecting this conversation to go in that direction. Look, Grant continued, I've been divorced. I know how it goes. Someone stops respecting you, stops seeing you as a partner, and you've got two choices. You can stay and let yourself disappear, or you can walk away with your dignity intact. You chose the second option. I respect that. So you want to buy my house because I stood up for myself at a block party? I want to buy your house because it's a good property and I can afford it. But yeah, the way you handled yourself definitely made me want to help you move this process along faster. He handed me a printed document, pre-approval letter from his bank. He wasn't lying about being able to pay cash. The guy had serious money sitting in liquid assets. I'll need to run this by my attorney, I said. And obviously my wife has to agree since she owns half. Fair enough, but my offer stands for 48 hours. After that, I'll look at other properties in the area. We shook hands and he left. I immediately called my attorney. That's an excellent offer, he said after I explained the situation. Significantly reduces your time in limbo, but you need your wife's agreement to accept it. What if she refuses? Then we proceed with the regular sale process. But this offer gives you leverage. She can either agree to a quick, profitable sale or drag things out and potentially get less money after months of showings and negotiations. I thanked him and hung up. Texted my wife to come home, that we needed to talk. She walked in an hour later looking defensive before I'd even said anything. What now? We have an offer on the house. From the neighbor 3 doors down. Above asking price. Cash. 3-week close. Her expression shifted from defensive to surprised. Already? Yeah. And it's a solid offer. My attorney says we should take it. How much above asking? 10,000. Plus no inspection contingency. Means we keep all the profit and close fast. She sat down slowly. This is really happening. I told you it was. Now you have a choice. We accept this offer, split the proceeds according to what's legally fair, and move on. Or you refuse. We go through months of showings and negotiations, and probably end up with less money after everything's said and done. What do you mean legally fair? It's 50-50, right? I pulled out a folder my attorney had prepared. Not exactly. This is a breakdown of financial contributions over the last year. Mortgage payments, property taxes, maintenance, utilities. All paid by me. Then there's the down payment, which was 60% my money, 40% yours. Plus home improvements, which I paid for entirely. She looked through the papers, her face getting pale. My attorney says in a divorce, the court considers financial contribution. You haven't worked or contributed financially in over a year. That affects the split. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. You'll get your share, but it's going to be based on actual contribution, not just your name being on the deed. This is insane. You're trying to screw me over. I'm following the law. If you think it's unfair, get your own attorney and we'll let them figure it out. But that takes time and costs money. This offer expires in 48 hours. She threw the folder on the table. I need to think about it. You've got 2 days. After that, Grant's offer is off the table and we go back to the regular sale process, which means more time, more lawyers, more money spent. Your choice. She left the room. I picked up the folder and put it back in order. Everything in there was factual. Bank statements, payment records, receipts. My attorney had been thorough. That night I got a text from Grant. Any decision yet? Still working on it. Should know by Monday. Fair enough. Let me know. Sunday was tense. My wife avoided me most of the day. I could tell she was spiraling, trying to figure out how to get more out of this situation. But the math didn't work in her favor, and she knew it. Monday morning, she came downstairs while I was making coffee. I'll agree to the sale, but I want 50-50. Not happening. The breakdown is fair based on contribution. Then I'll get an attorney. Go ahead. But Grant's offer expires tonight. If you want to drag this out and spend thousands on legal fees just to end up with less money in the end, that's your decision. She stared at me for a long moment, trying to find an angle, trying to figure out if I was bluffing. I'm not bluffing, I said, reading her mind. Take the offer or don't. Either way, this house is getting sold. She grabbed her phone and left the room. I heard her making calls, probably trying to find an attorney who'd give her a free consultation. Good luck with that. By 5 that afternoon, she still hadn't agreed. I texted Grant. She's stalling. Probably going to let your offer expire. Unfortunate. I'll start looking at other properties tomorrow. At 7, my wife came back into the kitchen. Fine. I'll take it. You'll take the offer with the financial breakdown my attorney provided? She looked like she wanted to argue, but she just nodded. Say it clearly. Yes. I agree to sell the house to Grant for asking plus 10, and I agree to the assets split your attorney outlined. I texted Grant immediately. She agreed. Let's move forward. He responded within seconds. Perfect. I'll have my attorney contact yours tomorrow morning. Let's get this done. I looked at my wife. She was standing there looking defeated, probably realizing for the first time that I wasn't backing down on anything. 3 weeks, I said, and this is over. She went upstairs without responding. I sat on the back porch with a beer, watching the sun set over the yard. I'd be leaving soon. My phone buzzed. Text from Grant again. By the way, once this closes, I'm planning some renovations. If you're still around and need any recommendations for contractors, let me know. I smiled. Guy was already planning his future here. Meanwhile, I was planning mine somewhere else. Somewhere without the weight of a marriage that had been dead for months. 3 weeks couldn't come fast enough. With the sale moving forward, I started packing. Going through closets, drawers, 3 years of accumulated stuff. That's when I found the receipts. Tucked in the back of her desk drawer, folded inside an old planner she thought I'd never look through. Dinner receipts from places we'd never been together. High-end restaurants downtown. Dates from the last 6 months. Always on nights, she said she was out with friends. One receipt caught my attention. 2 entrees, bottle of wine, dessert. Total came to over $200. Paid with her credit card, the one linked to our joint account. The one I paid off every month. I kept digging. Found more receipts. Different restaurants, same pattern. Always 2 people, always expensive, always nights she claimed she was just hanging out casually. Then I checked our cloud backup. Something I'd set up years ago for our phones, mostly for photos. Turns out, deleted text messages sync there too if you know where to look. I found conversations with someone named Ryan. Started innocent enough, just friendly exchanges. But by February, the tone shifted. Inside jokes, late-night messages, comments that crossed lines. Nothing explicitly physical, but enough to make it clear this wasn't just a friendship. One message stood out. From her, sent 3 weeks ago. He's so checked out anyway. I don't think he'd even notice if I disappeared. His response, then why stay? Her reply, working on it. I sat there staring at my laptop screen, reading through months of messages. She'd been planning her exit while living in the house I paid for, eating food I bought, pretending everything was fine. I didn't scream, didn't break anything. Just took screenshots of everything, backed them up to a separate drive, and sent copies to my attorney. When she got home that evening, I was sitting in the living room with printouts of the receipts spread across the coffee table. What's all this? She asked, dropping her purse. Evidence. She looked closer, saw what they were, and her face went pale. Where did you get those? Your desk. Interesting reading. $200 at the Ivy House on a Tuesday. You told me you were at Target that night. Those aren't what you think. They're exactly what I think. You've been spending our money taking someone else out to dinner while telling me you're running errands. It was just friends. Friends? Which friend? Because I've got 6 months of receipts here, all showing the same pattern. 2 people, expensive meals, always when you said you were somewhere else. She tried to grab the papers. I moved them out of reach. I also found the messages. She froze. What messages? Cloud backup is a beautiful thing. You deleted them from your phone, but they're still accessible if you know where to look. Every conversation with Ryan, every late-night text, every plan you made behind my back. You went through my private messages? They're on a shared cloud account that I pay for. Nothing private about it, but nice deflection. Really shows where your priorities are. She sat down, trying to figure out her next move. I could see the wheels turning, looking for an angle to spin this in her favor. It wasn't physical, she said finally. Does that matter? Yes, it matters. I never cheated on you. I pulled up one of the screenshots on my laptop and turned it toward her. You told him you were working on leaving me. That's not cheating. That's just talking. About ending our marriage. While living here. While spending my money. While pretending everything was fine. You're making this sound worse than it is. How is it not as bad as it sounds? You've been emotionally involved with someone else for months. Lying about where you were going, spending money on dates with him, and planning your exit. What part of that is me making it sound worse? She didn't have an answer. Just sat there looking trapped. You had options, I said. If you were unhappy, you could have been honest. Could have said you wanted out. Instead, you chose to lie, sneak around, and disrespect me while I paid for everything. It just happened. Nothing just happens. You made choices. Every dinner, every text, every lie. Those were all choices. She tried guilt next. Maybe if you had paid more attention to me, I wouldn't have needed someone else to talk to. I almost laughed. That's your play? Blame me for your decisions. I'm just saying, you weren't exactly present. I worked to pay our bills. The mortgage you weren't contributing to. The credit cards you maxed out on dinners with Ryan. I was plenty present. You just didn't care because you were already focused on someone else. That's not fair. What's not fair is you trying to rewrite history to make yourself the victim. You cheated emotionally. You lied constantly. And you spent months planning to leave while acting like we were fine. Own it. She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. My attorney has copies of everything, I said. The receipts, the messages, all of it. If you try to fight me on the house or the asset division, this all becomes part of the record. You want that? You're threatening me? I'm being clear about consequences. You made choices. Those choices have documentation. If you want to make this harder than it needs to be, that documentation goes public in court. Your call. She stood up, shaking. I don't even know who you are right now. I'm the guy who stopped letting you walk all over him. Maybe if you paid attention to that, we wouldn't be here. She went upstairs. I heard the bedroom door close, then lock. Fine by me. I had zero interest in talking to her anymore anyway. I spent the rest of the evening organizing everything into folders. Financial records, text message screenshots, receipts, timeline of events. My attorney had said documentation was key if things got messy during the divorce. Now I had more than enough. The next day, she avoided me completely. Stayed in the bedroom until I left for work. Came home after I was already in bed. We were roommates at this point, barely even that. Grant's attorney contacted mine. Sale process was moving smoothly. Inspection waived, title search clean, closing scheduled for 3 weeks out like promised. Everything was on track. My wife finally came downstairs Thursday evening while I was going through more boxes in the garage. I want to explain, she started. There's nothing to explain. I found the evidence. I know what happened. We're past the point of explanations. Ryan is just a friend. Stop lying. You told him you were working on leaving me. Friends don't say that. It was complicated. No, it wasn't. You got involved with someone else while still married to me. Pretty straightforward. She leaned against the doorframe. What happens now? We close on the house in less than 3 weeks. You get your share based on the breakdown my attorney provided. We file for divorce. And then we go our separate ways. Just like that. Just like that. You made your choices. Now you live with them. And if I said I wanted to try to fix this, I stopped packing and looked at her directly. You don't want to fix anything. You just don't want to deal with the fallout. There's a difference. She didn't argue. Couldn't. Because she knew I was right. Ryan know you were about to be homeless? I asked. I'm not homeless. I'll figure something out. Hope he's got a spare room. Because after this closes, you're not my problem anymore. She left the garage without responding. I went back to packing, feeling nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just ready for this chapter to be over. My phone buzzed. Text from my attorney. All documents filed. Divorce papers ready to serve once house closes. Just need your confirmation to proceed. I texted back. Proceed. 3 weeks. That's all that stood between me and complete freedom from this mess. I could wait 3 weeks. The closing happened on a Wednesday morning. Grant showed up early, professional, and ready. My wife arrived 10 minutes late, looking like she hadn't slept. We sat across from each other at the title company conference table. Lawyers on both sides. Escrow officer running through paperwork. The whole process took less than an hour. When it was done, I walked out with a check for my portion. She got hers, significantly smaller after the financial breakdown was applied. She tried to argue one last time, but her attorney advised her to sign. Smart move on his part. That's it? She asked as we stood in the parking lot. That's it. House is his now. We're done. Where are you going? Not your concern anymore. And the divorce? Papers get filed next week. You'll be served at your new address. Whatever that is. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but I got in my car and left. Drove straight to the bank, deposited the check, and called my attorney. It's done. Proceed with the divorce filing. Will do. Should be finalized in about 60 days given there's no custody issues or disputes over assets now. I thanked him and hung up. Drove to the small rental house I'd secured 2 weeks prior. 1 bedroom, decent neighborhood, month-to-month lease. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. No shared space, no reminders of what I'd left behind. That evening, Grant texted me. Thanks for making the process smooth. House is exactly what I wanted. Glad it worked out for both of us. By the way, ran into Mrs. Patterson earlier. She asked what happened with you two. I smiled. Mrs. Patterson was the neighborhood gossip. If she was asking, everyone knew by now. What did you tell her? Told her to mind her business. But figured you'd want to know people are talking. Let them talk. I'm not concerned about it. And I wasn't. The people who mattered knew the truth. Everyone else could speculate all they wanted. 2 weeks later, the divorce papers were served. My attorney called to confirm she'd received them and had 30 days to respond. If she didn't contest anything, we'd be legally done by early summer. She tried calling me a few times. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to discuss. One afternoon, I ran into Grant at the hardware store. He was buying paint supplies for the renovations he'd mentioned. How's the house treating you? I asked. Great. Already repainted the living room. Planning to redo the kitchen next month. Place is good bones. Glad you're making it your own. Saw your ex the other day, he said. She was driving by slowly, looking at the house. Seemed upset. Not surprising. Reality probably hit her hard. She made her choices, Grant said. You handled it right. A lot of guys would have stayed and been miserable. You didn't. We talked for a few more minutes, then went our separate ways. I finished my shopping and headed back to my place. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. It was her, using a different phone. Can we talk? I deleted it. Blocked the number. There was nothing to talk about. The divorce finalized 62 days after filing. No contest, no drama. Just signatures and a court stamp making it official. I got the notification from my attorney on a Friday afternoon. Congratulations, he said. You're officially single. I thanked him, paid his final invoice, and closed that chapter completely. That weekend I drove past the old neighborhood. Grant had the front yard landscaped, new plants along the walkway. The house looked better than when I'd lived there. I kept driving. Didn't stop, didn't slow down. Just kept moving forward. Because that's what you do when you know your worth. You don't beg for respect. You don't tolerate being treated like someone disposable. You walk away with your dignity intact and you build something better. 3 months after the divorce finalized, I was sitting at a sports bar watching the game when I got a message request on social media. Her. I made a mistake. We should talk. I stared at it for about 5 seconds, then deleted it without responding. Some doors, once closed, stay closed. Life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Work was good, got a promotion with a decent raise. The rental house turned into something permanent when the landlord offered to sell it to me at a fair price. I bought it outright with money from the sale. No mortgage, no shared anything. Just mine. Ran into Grant a few weeks later at a coffee shop. He was with someone, looked happy. Hey, how's everything going? He asked. Good. Really good, actually. Heard you bought that place you were renting. Smart move. Felt right. How's the house? Finished the kitchen renovation last month. Turned out great. He paused. Your ex drove by again recently. 3rd time I've noticed. She say anything? Nope. Just slows down and looks. Then leaves. I shrugged. Not my problem anymore. Exactly right, Grant said. You moved on. She stuck looking backward. We talked for a few more minutes before parting ways. I grabbed my coffee and headed home. That evening I cleaned out the last box from the garage. Old photos, random papers, stuff I'd been putting off dealing with. Found our wedding album at the bottom. Flipped through it once, felt nothing, and tossed it in the donation pile. My phone rang. Unknown number. Probably her again from yet another phone. I sent it to voicemail and kept cleaning. The message notification popped up an hour later. I played it. I know you don't want to talk, but I need you to know I'm sorry. Ryan didn't work out. I realize now what I gave up. Please call me back. I deleted it immediately. Didn't even finish listening. She didn't want me back because she missed me. She wanted me back because her plan failed and she was looking for a safety net. That's not love. That's convenience. Saturday morning, I was working on the yard when my neighbor came over. Older guy, retired military, didn't talk much, but always friendly. Heard you went through a divorce, he said. Sorry about that. Don't be. Best decision I ever made. Good answer. My ex-wife tried coming back twice after our divorce. Both times I told her the same thing. You made your choice, now live with it. Exactly. You seem like you're doing all right, though. Better than all right. I'm free. He nodded, understood completely. That's the key. Freedom's worth more than trying to fix something that was already broken. We talked for a bit longer before he headed back inside. I finished the yard work, cracked a beer, and sat on my back porch. The sun was setting, birds chirping, quiet neighborhood. My house, my space. No drama, no lies, no disrespect. I thought about that block party 6 months ago. How she introduced me as someone she knows. How I could have stayed quiet and kept pretending. But I didn't. I called it out. Made the hard choice. Walked away with my dignity intact. And now, I was exactly where I needed to be. My phone buzzed one more time. Another message request from her. I didn't even open it. Just blocked the account and finished my beer. Some people think walking away means you lost. They're wrong. Walking away means you knew your worth and refused to settle for less. I didn't lose anything. I gained everything that mattered. Respect, freedom, peace. And that's how you win.
이게 2주 조금 넘게 남았지. 예, 2주 조금 넘게. 예, 2주 조금 넘게 남았기 때문에, 오늘이나 내일 좀 집을 알아보고, 예, 며칠까지 이사 갑니다. 좀 해놔야지. 예, 아마 이사를 예, 좀 빡세게 좀 빨리 갈 것 같아. 6월 한 15일에서 18일 사이에는 가야 되지 않을까? 예, 20일에 빼야 되니까. 20일 당일날 빼면 또 너무 빡빡하니까. 예, 어차피 뭐 짐이야 뭐 버릴 거 다 버리고 하면은 솔직히 얼마 없거든요. 예, 그렇기 때문에 뭐 굳이 뭐 막 그렇게 막 이사하는 건 빡세지 않을 것 같아. 예, 이거 장롱을 옮길까 말까가 존나 고민인데 이것도 고민해봐야 될 것 같아. 장롱을 하나 버리고 하나만 써야 될 때 시청자 이벤트 나눔 하냐고. 시청자 이벤트 나눔 만약에 원룸에 뭐 세탁기랑 세탁기란다 세탁기 냉장고 뭐야 그거 에어컨 있다 하면은 그걸로 그냥 쓰고 집에 있는 거는 나눔하든가 해야죠. 뭐 양심적으로 슈발 그 공짜로 가져가려고 하는 생각은 좀 에어컨 세탁기 에어컨 냉장고가 그래도 돈이 얼만데 씨. 그래도 그 대당 한 10만원씩은 주고 가져가시는 게 양심이 아닌가. 뭐 컴퓨터도 하나 있는데 그것도 뭐 나눔 될 수 있으면 나눔하면 좋은데 컴퓨터는 갖다 파는 게 맞는 것 같아. 짐 옮길 때 뭘로 옮기냐고요? 아니 뭐 용달 불러야죠. 사실상 근데 짐이 큰 거는 내 생각에 장롱밖에 없을 것 같거든. 장롱이랑 그냥 뭐 식기류 몇 개 해가지고 뭐 책상 이런 거 해가지고 얼마 안 걸릴 것 같아요. 사실상 짐 옮기는 거는 용달 불러가지고 장롱 하나는 갖다 버리고 장롱 하나는